Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so Eden Zero, chapter 120 is out, and just like the name for the chapter says, it's literally just a simple chapter focusing mostly on the fight between Rebecca and Britney. Which, by the way, the fight pretty much goes exactly how I said it was going to go back when we got the matchups in the first place. I said that when it came down to Homura and Rebecca's fights, their fights, because of the fact that they are bad matchups against their opponents, would come down to them basically using a one-time trick to get the victory. And that's exactly what Homura did in the last chapter, and that's exactly what that's exactly what Rebecca does in this chapter. Now, that being said, even though Rebecca does use a trick in order to get the victory at the end, it does lead to some interesting development in this chapter because she actually does end up eventually finding out a little bit more about her E-figure ability, something that we've already been kind of aware of prior to this, but she kind of starts to understand more about her ability and what its true nature is. Now, before we get into the actual content for the chapter, I want to quickly talk about the cover page because, alright, the cover page for this week's chapter is Laguna and some woman standing next to each other fixing their makeup in a mirror, which, even though Hiromashima is doing his best with his artwork, I mean, like I said, the cover pages for these chapters are always amazing. There's not really much to this. It's literally just the two of them fixing their makeup in the mirror. It doesn't have any hints to the chapter. It doesn't give us any like insight to the characters or anything like that. Just the two of them, like I said, fixing their makeup in the mirror. But the reason why I want to bring up this cover page is because I am 100% lost on who that woman in the mirror standing next to him is. And I pretty much narrowed it down to three characters. Either Rebecca, obviously because of the fact that they're technically part of the same crew right now, so it will make sense that they would be together, fixing their makeup alongside each other. Amira, because I guess technically Amira might have met him in the last arc. I don't think they actually did, but there's a chance that she could have met him at some point during the last arc that we haven't seen off screen. So there's that. And then Clarice, because of the fact that, well, she's the only other blonde character we've been introduced to so far in the series that actually has a name. Now, it could just be that this is actually a character from Laguna's past that he knows that we haven't been met or introduced to yet. But if that's the case, then why would Hiro put her on the cover page unless he's trying to give us hints towards Laguna's backstory? And then, maybe down the line when we actually get more info on Laguna, we'll meet this character. But as of right now, I'm assuming that we've met the character who's standing next to him in the cover page, and that it has to be one of the three characters I just mentioned. Now, I actually found the beginning of the chapter really funny because we open up with the Homura versus Mora fight at the end of it, and even though Homura obviously won that fight, because of the fact that Mora gave her some pretty good hits and she was heavily damaged by them, and due to the fact that like the Dragon Slayers are weak to moving vehicles, she's also weak to fire and heat, and she's still surrounded by fire. She passes down on her feet, and this is when Shiki comes out of nowhere like a knight in shining armor. And when I was reading this part of the chapter, I was like, alright, this right here is just pure shipping fuel. Like, I can already hear the fans out there who do fan art for a lot of Hiromashima series basically just drawing away at like the little fan romance comics between Shiki and Homer right now. And I'm not hating on it. Even though I personally, if I were to ship, it would be Rebecca and Shiki. I'm not gonna, hate on people who actually ship Shiki and Homura. Whatever Hiromashima decides to do, because obviously he does involve romance in the series, I'm on for it. And after that little comedy bit in the beginning, we actually spend the rest of the chapter focusing on the fight between Rebecca and Britney. And the fight pretty much goes exactly how I said. Even though Rebecca does have a better understanding of how to use her abilities now, she still, because of the fact that Britney's ability lets her turn into smoke, she doesn't have the ability to defeat her. She can't, no matter what she does, because of the fact that her attacks will all be physical, she can't land a direct hit on Britney that would do any damage. And she actually does exactly what I said they should have done when Mora first showed up, and she basically just picks up Pino and Happy, and she gets out of there. As soon as she realizes that she can't land a hit on Rebecca or on Britney because of her ability to turn her body into smoke and mist, she immediately just tries to get out of there. And her speed, Ether Gear, actually does let her get away from Britney, but because of the fact that smoke is actually very fast, Britney catches up to her pretty quickly. But this is actually where Rebecca actually shows how smart she actually can be in moments, even though she's always kind of being portrayed as kind of idiotic and dumb. She does show in moments of crisis that she actually is somewhat intelligent. And instead of basically running towards town to get away from Britney, she actually runs towards the fire. And the reason why this is actually kind of smart is because in heat, smoke rises. So she immediately knew that as soon as she ran to the fire, the heat surrounding her would cause Britney to rise, so she wouldn't be able to attack her. This will give Rebecca the chance to basically get away from her as far as away as she can before Britney can catch up to her. And she does actually manage to get away and actually head towards the city. And when she gets to the city, we actually get to see a moment where she actually takes a pause and actually kind of forgets for a brief second that she's actually in mortal danger because of the fact that Britney is chasing after her right now. And when she sees that the humans are still being basically attacked and basically enslaved by the robots, she has a brief moment where she's looking at everyone in the city who's going under that, and you can tell that she wants to help them out, but she knows that as of right now, there's nothing she can do. So she kind of just quickly apologizes for not being able to do anything, and then just continues running once Brittany catches up to her. But again, this is another moment where Rebecca actually gets to show exactly how smart she is, because just from overhearing Happy having a daydream or having a dream talking about wanting to eat more fish, she gets the idea to actually break into a store, or actually think it's someone's apartment, something like that. But she breaks into some place and she gets a vacuum, and she plans on using that to basically, quote unquote, eat Brittany and basically just suck the smoke from her body into the vacuum so that she can't attack her anymore. And this is actually a really smart idea. The only drawback to it is that the vacuum that she grabs has a passcode activation. And honestly, because of the fact that she doesn't know the passcode, she can't activate the vacuum. Now, Pino does actually wake up in enough time to basically analyze the vacuum and tell her what the passcode is. But by the time she actually does manage to start putting in the passcode, Brittany comes on her and actually uses her poison smoke ability, which, by the way, we end up finding out in this chapter that Brittany can turn her body into not only electric smoke, but poison smoke as well. So it actually opens up a kind of like, plethora of ideas of exactly what kind of abilities she could have, because honestly, there's different types of smoke. She could turn herself into vapor. She could turn herself into just normal smoke. She could turn herself into smoke that has electric quality. She can turn herself into poisonous smoke. There's a whole bunch of ideas that Hiro Mashima could come up with what kind of abilities she could have in the future if he ever brings her character back. But anyway, as soon as she actually comes on to Rebecca, she basically covers her in poison smoke that just eats away at her body. Like, you actually get to see Rebecca's skin, like, eating away from itself and actually turning her into a husk. And just before the poison kills her, her cat leaf ability actually opens up, or actually activates, and takes her back in time to when she first got into the house or the store and grabbed the vacuum. And now that she actually heard the passcode from Pino in the previous timeline, she activates it, turn on the vacuum and basically sucking up Britney as soon as she gets inside the building. So again, Rebecca won just like how I said she would, with a one-trick attack that would never work again the next time the two of these characters had to fight off against each other. But because of the fact that there's no reason for them to fight again in the future, unless Hiro decides that they're going to be personal opponents or personal rivals for the series, we're never going to see the two of these characters fight again, so we won't have to worry about that. Just like how with Mora and Homura, we'll see Mora probably, if he actually does end up showing up, fighting someone else, probably from the Eden Zero crew, but we most likely won't ever see those two characters fighting again. So we won't have to worry about Homura's one-time trick not working on him again, because he won't ever fight her again. Now, despite the fact that Rebecca won this fight off of a trick, I actually was really impressed with throughout the entire chapter with how she was actually using her head as ways to basically win the fight. And I actually was really impressed by the end of the chapter, the fact that she actually realized that her Ether Gear ability has abilities that she was not fully aware of. Because she already knew that she had the ability to run at super speed, and she had the ability to basically travel to different timelines. But she also becomes aware of something that we've been already kind of aware of since she first activated her Ether Gear ability. And that's the fact that she can kind of reverse time. Because, alright, she notices in this chapter, obviously because of the fact that she was obviously dying prior to defeating Britney, that she did go back in time. But she's not really in a new timeline. And she knows this because things aren't really that different. But what she ends up finding out, or what she ends up realizing, is that she just slightly reversed time, just like a few seconds, a moment or two, but not that far back in time. And we've already seen this ability be used prior to this. Because, I mean, if you remember back to the chapter where we actually saw her use her ability for the first time, we could already tell from that chapter that she actually does have the ability to reverse time. Now, we weren't sure if she could actually do this and not be sent to a different timeline, like she did when she was basically under the Capture Dragon Joe, but now we know for sure that she actually can reverse time at least a few seconds or a few moments without having to go to a different timeline. So this is actually really interesting and actually gives her a really broken ability, because now going forward, any opponent that she actually does go up against that she can't outright defeat initially, once she masters this ability to go back in time a few seconds or a few moments, she can basically just keep trying new tricks over and over again until one works. Now, that being said, this doesn't automatically make her the unbeatable character that she should be, because of the fact that even though she does have the ability to go back in time a few seconds to stop herself from dying, when it comes to opponents that she just can't defeat outright, like there's no chance of her defeating no matter how many times she tries, she still wouldn't be able to defeat those powerful opponents, so her ability's not as broken as it seems. But that being said, when it comes to her partnering up with someone, she becomes a completely broken partner. Because, alright, All it would take is her basically saying, all right, Shiki, you did this a few seconds ago, it didn't work, so do this instead, or, the opponent attacked with this kind of power, use this to basically counteract it, something like that. Basically, she would basically make any tag team fight she's in unwinnable for her opponents, because she can just go back in time and tell Shiki exactly what her opponent's planning on doing, or once she actually ends up finding out what her opponent's abilities are, depending on how far back she can go in time without having to go to a different timeline, she could just say, hey, here's his ability, you can do this and this to defeat him. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the chapter. The only other thing I can think of to talk about that happened in this chapter is we get to see a little bit more of Britney's personality, and we see that she is very much the type of character who's very jealous of people who are prettier than her, because of the fact that I guess a lover of hers kind of left her for a prettier woman. So due to that, she is very angry and resentful towards Rebecca throughout the entire chapter. But other than that, we don't really find out much more about her character, about her personality, or anything like that. And there's nothing really much else to talk about from the chapter, so that's pretty much it for the video. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories. We still have no idea what's going on with Shura. Cannot wait to find out more information about him and find out exactly when him and Chiki are going to meet. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.